This is Doc with Doc and Lefty. Lefty is missing in action. This is the second week in a row that he has been late to work. I don't know, Frank, what would you do? Would you fire him or would you just give him a warning?
Well, I don't know who'd replace him. I couldn't replace him.
Well, that's true. That's the problem with having an indispensable part of your team. You can't dispense with them. Anyway, we're here today, or I'm here today, to talk to you about several interesting things that are going on. Of course, we have the President's State of the Union address tonight. I'm not quite sure what he's going to say besides this is the worst recovery in history. I blame Bush, and I'm going to bomb and drone strike many more people, including some Americans. What do you think? Is that what you think that's what he's going to be talking about tonight?
Maybe.
Yeah,
I don't know.
He's not going to be talking about that. What he's going to be talking about is illegal immigration. He's going to be talking about taking everybody's guns. And the third subject he's going to be talking about is he blames Bush for everything. That's basically what he does. He really doesn't have a foreign policy. He could have had his own foreign policy by now, but he won't. He could have had a turnaround economic recovery by now. However, with the largest tax increase in history, with the largest spending bump in history, really, our economy is not going to go anywhere. Now, not to lay all the blame at Obama's feet, a lot of it rests with Republicans. Republicans like to spend money just as much as Obama does. It's just that they'll also lower your taxes at the same time and not spend as much. That's not really, what we need at this time. Second topic we're going to talk about a little bit is taxation. And there is a new tax that is taking effect that affects everybody that owns property. Now, they have this thing called the adjusted gross income, the AGI. And basically, if you make over $250,000 a year, you're going to have to pay an additional 4% on any money that you happen to earn through rents, through selling of your house, through selling of your business assets, whatever it might be. So we're going to talk a little bit about that as soon as Lefty gets here. The third thing that we can start on immediately is there's been a whole lot of hot local stuff happening with politics. First off, Kent Sorensen has had a ethics violation or an ethics complaint filed against him with the Iowa Senate. If anybody's familiar with Kent Sorensen, he's a guy that came out of nowhere and beat a Democrat in a fairly heavily Democrat county. I mean, this is the county. Warren County is where Tom Harkin's from. And when I grew up down there, if you're a Republican, you don't even ask anybody. You don't even campaign down there. Anyway, Kent managed to beat everybody down there, and he's a very staunch Tea Party favorite. And he has, I think he started out. Did he start out in the House? He started out as a representative, then ran for Senate, I think is what he did. Anyway, he was one of the people that was helping on Michelle Bachmann's campaign along with Brad Zahn. And not to link the two together because, Brad's a pretty straightforward guy. He's going to be very extra careful and clean about what he does. Anyway, there is a lady named Hecky, and she is part of this thing called Niche, and it's to help people that are homeschooling. And you're not allowed by law to use this email list for any kind of political purpose. You can't email these people on this list because they, for anything political, not to recruit them, not to advertise your campaign, nothing like that. And apparently, the story goes, they had asked Hecky, and by they, I mean the vague, nebulous people that were working for Michelle Bachmann here in Iowa. And she said, no, I can't give it to you because, it's against the law and this isn't what this is for. Now, unfortunately, she took this laptop, Hecky did, into, these meetings because it's her laptop. And in Iowa, particularly, we have honesty and integrity. So we feel like we can take our laptops, virtually anywhere, and nobody's going to hack into them. For the most part, you can leave your iPhone or your laptop, or whatever gizmo you have laying around, and an Iowan will bring it back to you. So you have to understand those listeners that we have that aren't from Iowa, they really don't understand how we operate. They go, well, geez, you don't leave your wallet laying out. Well, we kind of do around here. You take out your wallet and do all this stuff. So anyway, we're honest people is the point. So Hecky gives up and goes and does something. Gets herself a coffee, goes to the bathroom, whatever it might be. Hey, Frank, Lefty just showed up. Would you mind going and grabbing him?
Yeah, I'll get him.
So, oh my goodness, Lefty actually showed up. Tell him he's getting docked. All right. So Hecky goes and does whatever she's doing. And during the time that she's gone, somebody gets into her computer, gets the list, apparently drops it on a hard drive or a flash drive, whatever it is. And they send out this giant mailing, Bachman does, using this niche list. Well, it was a big deal back then. I'm sure Michelle Bachman didn't say, hey, listen, let's go, violate law and grab this list. So I think they promised immediately to stop using it. She apologized once they found out that was going on. Now it's a big investigation to figure out who really did it. Well, they've interviewed everybody that was there. And they all said, we really don't know how we got it. We didn't do it. We did get this list. We didn't understand what it was until you come to this one guy. And I wish, I wish I could remember his name off the top of my head. I want to say it was Willery or Woolers or something like that. And he files this. They go and interview him. He signs an affidavit that says, well, Kent Sorensen told me personally that he took it, Kent Sorensen took it off of her computer. Of course, everybody else denies it. So there is a Senate ethics complaint against him for this. Now, the problem is he is a darling of the Tea Party movement. He's a darling of the Republican side of politics. He does carry a lot of weight in and of himself. So we're going to have to see where this ethics complaint goes. Now, keep in mind, everybody else said, nobody took it except for this one guy. So we've invited Kent to come on. I've told him that we don't have to talk about it. However, if he wants to make a statement, I think this is probably about the friendliest venue he's going to get, especially when you have a liberal in the group, if he ever shows up to the show. So we're going to be right back. We're going to talk about some other interesting things that are happening in Iowa politics right after the break. Lefty is now here. We are all excited. You're listening to us on webcast1live.com every Tuesday from 6 to 7. We'll be back right after the break.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
Drug and alcohol addiction slowly steals a person's identity, tearing away pieces of their life little by little until one day it seems like the hope of a happy future is gone and there's no chance of getting it back. Here at St. Gregory Retreat Centers, we can assure you that there is hope. Our unique approach to recovery begins with the understanding that the dysfunction and damage caused by addiction can be overcome, not just dealt with. Don't let another day go by. Call St. Gregory today.
It's like they want to get hit.
Need a body shop?
Minor Wreck Express saves you time and money.
I think we finished that one up. Hey, geez. Frank did this to me last week.
I think, honestly, I do appreciate it because he's trying to get it so that kind of get you off your game so that I can slide in here and sort of gloss over the fact that I was 5 minutes late again 2 weeks in a row.
Yes. Well, like we were just talking about that. How do you fire somebody who's indispensable? How do you do that?
Hey,
you can't come back, but better be here next week.
Well, I'm going to start showing up with gold chains and $800 pair of sunglasses and just kind of Whitney Houston it up.
Oh yeah, I'm all for that.
Yeah.
You might want to try the Mr. T look.
You think so?
Oh yeah, you could be the antimatter Mr. T.
so if Mr. T and I were ever cross paths, some sort of like really bad explosion or black hole would be generated. I understand.
Yes, absolutely. I
understand.
So, well, we're gonna a couple of interesting things that happened. Is one was Kent Sorensen and this ethics complaint. I'm not sure it's going to go anywhere. Anybody that knows Kent Sorensen knows that he probably is going to be. He's a straight shooter. You never know with those political types. So I'm not quite sure it's going to go anywhere. The other interesting thing that happened is Braley announced almost immediately. Yes, he did. For Harkin's seat. There's a local West Des Moines businessman, a financial advisor, I believe he is, named Scherzan, Scherzan, and he declared there is a
when did he declare? I listened to Iowa Press on Friday, and they were talking about Braley was the only one who was for sure.
I believe he declared on Sunday.
Yeah.
But I could be wrong. But it's been either Friday or this weekend, and he's throwing his hat in the ring. I'm always suspicious about financial advisors throwing their hat in the ring because you never know if they're just a bad financial advisor and they're trying to generate some income, or if they're ready to get out of financial advising in order to be able to reap the rewards of the rules are going to.
Well, I'm leery of any Democrat who's a financial advisor who thinks he's gonna. I mean, he's a Democrat, right, or is he a Republican?
He's a Democrat.
And not that Democrats can't be financial advisors, but in the sort of woodshedding that anybody in the financial industry took from the Democrats in the last election, I feel like he's going to have a hard primary. Well, he's going to have a hard primary anyway, but.
Yeah, because Braley's tough. I mean, he really is tough.
Unless what the politicos and the folks around Iowa are saying that I haven't talked to anybody really keyed into this yet, but the rumbling in the Iowa political Democratic sphere is that the only guy that they might not even primary Bruce Braley, number one. So I don't know what this guy thinks he's doing with no name recognition and no sort of statewide following. But the only guy who could potentially unseat him would be Vilsack. Vilsack right now polls over everybody going away. It's not really even a contest. Now, in these early stages, the sort of caveat that you have to keep in the back of your head is that this is all name recognition. And so, a guy like Tom Vilsack, he's sort of increased his public profile, like really made it, his as the ag secretary, he's brought a lot of notoriety back to the state. He's not just the ag secretary to a two-term Democratic president, but he's also the ag secretary of a rural state, a farm economy that is under 5% unemployment, where the rest of the nation is still kind of struggling. So I feel like Tom Vilsack would be a pretty formidable Senate campaigner.
But if he wanted to have statewide office, because let's be straightforward. Being a U.S. senator is a big deal, but there's less governors, and being a governor of a state is a big deal. And he left the governorship.
Well, he promised. He made a promise that he'd leave after 2 terms, that he'd only serve 2 terms. I think he could have got reelected the 3rd time.
I agree. And my thing is I think he has a really good gig going on out in Washington D.C.
Well, he loves his job. I mean, he loves his job.
He does love his job.
I know Jess, his oldest son, a little bit. And whenever we bump into each other, ask how his dad's doing, we never see him. He's always going someplace and doing whatever he does, but he loves it. And this is in the 1st term, and things have only gotten better.
Oh yeah, I mean, and I was really rather, whenever you elect a Democrat, you always go, holy cow, and hang on to your wallet. But I think for the most part, he's done Iowa, the nation's farmers, really a good service. So, so unfortunately, I have to say something good about a Democrat. You know, just how that cracks my heart
well, you compliment me all the time just off the air.
Yeah, I don't want to do it on the air. I don't want to be on record complimenting any Democrat out there. You know how it goes.
That's right.
So anyway, I think Braley's going to have the same problem that King has, and that is Braley's going to be too far left to be able to win the western part of the state, and I think King's going to be too far right to win the right side of the state. See what I'm saying?
They're not equivalent though. I mean, I think that you'll see a lot more moderate Republicans voting for Braley than you'll see moderate Democrats voting for Steve King. I don't think that's even an argument.
Well, hold on. Braley is not as inflammatory. I'll give you that.
That's what I'm saying.
But as far as, set position pieces, I think they're pretty, they're pretty entrenched in their own.
I'm just talking about the politics of it. I'm not talking about their own particular ideology, because I guarantee you that if Bruce Braley feels like he needs to come to the right a little bit, then he will. Steve King won't make that same concession. Steve King is dyed in the wool. He eats red meat for breakfast. That's just who he is. Now, it's interesting because when he's at home, when he's on local programs, he doesn't do all this stuff. He'll hint at it. He'll say, well, I stand by my comment. He'll do all that stuff and kind of take ownership of his persona, but the national stuff is where he just goes off. And what I would see, and especially in contested races, if you remember back in 2010, the guy that gave him so much trouble, not in the polls, but just, hey, he won't debate me and he's a coward, and went to some of his challenger went to some of his own events saying, hey, why won't you debate? And see, he handled it really well because he's a great politician, saying, well, you're showing up to my events, why do I need to do anything? Thanks for coming, have a t-shirt. But Christie gave him a run for his money, and the first thing, not that she didn't get beat pretty badly. She got beat pretty much by the registration difference. But if you look at it, in sort of how he campaigns, he stepped up. He did some debates with her. He did some appearances with her. And the first thing that he started to say is all this outside money. He has a lockdown, safer than safe seat. But the minute he started to sweat, is outside money, all this outside money coming in, all these non-Iowans trying to take this seat away from the people. What'll happen in a statewide race where he doesn't have that excuse to lean on because it's two guys running for the same seat?
But the truth is everybody gets outside money.
Mm-hmm. That's how he ran his campaign, though. So I'm just saying,
and I agree, but I'm just saying that I agree. I don't think King's going to have a difficult job if he runs.
Yeah, he hasn't even announced yet. So
getting the right side of the state. Well, that brings up Karl Rove, with the assassin pack. I think that's what everybody's calling it.
Yep.
That's what I'm calling it, and I am everybody. That with this assassin pack, he's pretty much forced King to seriously consider running. I think Steve King is a very happy representing his district. I think, I don't think he's ever really had a idea of going forward to be a senator. I think he's happy there. Now Latham might have had that thought before, because he's tried to position himself and everything else.
Mm-hmm.
However, I think that at this time, one, it's way too early to speculate, but Latham is probably going to be able to carry the state much easier than King will. Now, keep in mind, you just might as well draw a big circle around Davenport, Iowa City, and Council Bluffs and hand that to the Democrat.
Yep.
Polk County is a little bit different. They have a Republican senator,
mm-hmm.
And Brad Zahn,
mm-hmm.
but they have a Democratic representative out in my neck of the woods. It's very conservative. So we're a little bit schizophrenic. We're going to be right back after the break. We're going to continue talking about Iowa politics. We want to do a shout out to Tim for putting us up on his Facebook site. Thanks a lot. We have to keep recruiting, young, dedicated people.
Absolutely.
All right. Thanks everybody for tuning in. We'll be right back after the break listening to Dr. Lefty on webcast1live.com.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
Whether you're 10, 25, 50, 80 years old and beyond, everyone needs to live within their means. I'm Tom Coates with Consumer Credit of America. For almost a quarter of a century, we've helped people of all ages learn to manage their personal finances to benefit them far into the future. When problems arise, we've got the experience you need to make those debt problems go away. Got financial problems? Call Consumer Credit of America.
If Tom Coates from Consumer Credit of America was your personal webmaster, Tom would filter out all bad debt emails. If Tom was your mailman, you'd never get any debt reduction junk mail. If Tom Coates was a lineman, he'd block any phone calls offering to reduce your credit card debt.
Hi, I'm Tom Coates with Consumer Credit of America, and we're still your best choice for credit counseling. We're local, we're accountable, and we can do more. You make the call when the time's right for you.
When it comes to competition, there really is none for Consumer Credit of America.
Welcome back. This is Lefty, the Doc and Lefty here on webcast1live.com every Tuesday from 6 to 7. Want to thank the sponsors that Webcast One has allocated for this program. They pay for the studio. They pay for our wonderful friend and neighbor, our producer over there, does a great job, and we just want to really appreciate them. We're talking about Iowa politics today. We don't have any guests in here to kind of beef up the conversation, but that's okay because Doc and I so seldom have the opportunity anymore, because we're not neighbors like we used to be, to talk Iowa politics face to face. I mean, we do a lot of stuff on Facebook, we do a lot of stuff, we're texting each other back and forth, but we're both busy guys, and so this is an hour that we have a chance to kind of bring some issues to the fore that a lot of people aren't talking about. Like I hadn't heard the issues with Kent Sorensen. I know that, you know, Doc's known for a really long time, but any sort of ethics complaint's a big deal. It doesn't matter if there's a lot of merit to it or not much merit to it. It's something I got to take really seriously, and I know that he will, just because it would be sort of foolish for him not to. But we were talking about potential Senate race stuff, and Doc had kind of had a thought during the break that he wanted to bring up.
All right. Well, I think I announced that Sherzan had declared for the Senate seat. I misspoke. I meant to say that he had declared for Latham's seat. You know, I think it's Tuesday and
for 2014 already.
Yeah.
Oh my.
2014.
Okay.
So you can find it on the nationaljournal.com, and it's apparently he was recruited by the Democratic National Committee to go declare and run. That's what this article says. So
was it Troy? Is his first name Troy Olson, the Democratic leader of the Democratic Party leader in Iowa? I think it's Troy.
I don't know.
I think
that would be something you should.
Yeah, no, I'm pretty sure it's Troy Olson. I think he was the one when they were they interviewed him in Iowa Press on Friday, and the question was whether Braley would get a primary. And I think that the Democrats right now think that Braley is such a surefire win for the state that they might not even primary him. And from a Democratic perspective, he doesn't have a lot of weaknesses.
No, not really. I mean, he's got a pretty solid base behind him.
Mm-hmm. He'll have a lot of money.
He barely won against Ben Lang. Ben Lang took him on again, and he stomped all over him. So he's been able to consolidate his base, consolidate his power over there. It's a heavily union district. There's several counties that have strong union workers there, and so they're able to organize and get the word out.
And I really think that the unions now have come home. The unions were really, really crabby with the Democrats under Chet Culver, because Chet threw them under the bus, kind of really didn't help them out with the 10% across-the-board cut, with some of the collective bargaining that they tried to do. But now that there's a Republican in the governor's mansion, now that Terry Branstad, who has never been a friend of the unions for the 18 times that he's been the governor, now the unions they've got a hero in Bruce Braley. They've got unified opposition, and that's why I think he's going to be tougher to beat, because even though I think that Latham would, if the Republican Party in Iowa is smart, and we saw how they handle the caucuses, just saying, they'll run Tom Latham against Bruce Braley, but I don't think that's going to happen. Or worst case or best case scenario, I think that there's going to be a really long bloody primary that's going to weaken any sort of Republican candidate comes out and allow Bruce Braley to define his opposition early.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, there have been several suggestions that Karl Rove is going to handpick whoever runs in these congressional districts. Carl, you have to keep in mind, Karl Rove gave $400,000 to Steve King in the last election cycle. I'm sure he gave an equal amount to Tom Latham. But the bottom line is Latham and King have the best shot. But sometimes you get somebody comes out of the blue and really shocks everybody.
That's true. And I mean, there's guys like AJ Spiker nobody really likes him right now. In the more establishment side, because he was with Ron Paul, and then we didn't pick Ron Paul, but then the delegates picked Ron Paul, and there's all that
and
sort
then
of
he started to fight with the governor.
Exactly. So folks that like Terry Branstad aren't fans of AJ Spiker, but he's got that. He's got a little bit of a profile. He doesn't want the seat. I know that, but if there's a big fight between Latham and King,
yeah, absolutely,
that's pure speculation.
Well, yeah, pure speculation. But I think they're sitting down looking at really what they can and can't do, who's back lining up to give them big money. Mm-hmm. Neither one of them are going to be very anxious to throw in their hat right away. I think one of the things that, if Kent Sorensen gets cleared from this ethics thing, and I believe he will, that could be one of the people that run for the Senate, because he did win on a Republican platform in a heavily Democratic county, and that you have to work hard to do that, And Brad Zahn did it. So those are the local interesting things that are going on. There was somebody I was supposed to say a happy birthday to, and for life of me, I can't remember.
Maybe they'll call in.
Well, I'm hoping they'll call in.
Yeah.
So the next subject is, I bragged it up on Facebook.
You did.
I was going to rake you over the coals and beat you with my brain, and I can't.
You can't.
I can't
Did you read the pamphlet?
I did read the pamphlet.
You did.
And it irritates the hell out of me.
You fell for it again. My good friend, the Right Honorable Dr. Patrick Bertroche, fell for another right-wing internet meme that says that there's this 3.8% across-the-board tax hike on all real estate transactions related to Obamacare. Now, there is a 3.8% tax, but it's not over real estate transactions universally. It's certainly not across the board on every deal that's done. It's simply on anything related to a real estate transaction or net investment income over $200,000 if you're filing by yourself, $250,000 if you're filing a joint marriage return, and what that is 3.8% over that threshold, or the lesser of the two with your investment income or your net investment income. So if you want to tell
now, in my defense,
set it up a little bit.
I did not fall victim to a meme. I've only done that once, and I was terribly embarrassed. So I've learned my lesson there.
Right.
But in the Obamacare, in the Obama tax, because you're offended by the Obamacare. You told me that one time, so we'll go with Obama tax.
Oh, I'm not anymore. We're owning it.
Oh, is that okay,
it's the law of the land. We won.
You guys. I wish the Democrats or the Republicans had that kind of flexibility. So we there is that 3.8% tax. The problem is with everything that's in the Obamacare bill, they leave it up to later on to come up with the rules and regulations. And we've been trying to find out what the rules and regulations were. And the truth of the matter is I got caught up in my friend's dilemma. And when it first came out, that's what they were talking about, that on every transaction that involves real estate, it's going to be, 3.8%. Now, it's my fault because the last I kept up with it was back in June.
Well,
and apparently things are different now.
Well, and I would probably put a little bit of the responsibility. I think that being not only is Doc, a big lovable teddy bear, he's also a philanthropist, and this is a guy who would give you the shirt off his back if he had an extra one with him, because he gets cold out in the February air in Iowa. But what I'd say is that I think that your friend probably didn't. He explained his situation, and you got so caught up in his finances that you didn't really put it together with the way that the bill or with the way that the law works. Because if you think about it, if you had a guy that was making only a certain amount of money and was taking a loss because of this tax, yeah, that would be an issue. Except that with the way that the math actually works out, he's not. It's a small increase, and even he would probably not be subject to it regardless because of how low his net investment income would be.
Yeah. Now, we're going to take a break. We'll be back here in about 3 minutes. We're going to continue on our conversation about taxation and how the government really runs that. They introduce the itty-bitty tax and then eventually expands to a great big giant one that screws everybody. So we're going to be back after the break. I do think I'm going to be able to beat Lefty down with this one. Stay tuned. We're going to be rumbling. Listen to Doc and Lefty on webcast1live.com.
I'm Brian Leach, owner and general manager of Service Legends. I brought along a couple of the home comfort heroes.
Hi, I'm Tammy Wells.
I am Nick Wondershide.
I'm administrative manager.
I am the senior technician
from Service Legends.
It seems like every good thing, when you feel it to the bone that it's good, there's a lot of hard work put behind it. I don't think that you can fake it and have it turn out good.
You know, if we seem like, okay, that's just weird, it's just a furnace, why would you believe so deeply in a furnace? It's not just that, you know, we want to show the world that you can have good service.
Yeah, I mean, it's got to be, it's your home.
You know, it's built into our daily trainings, it's built into our culture, that we're going to do whatever it takes to have each client say they love us, period.
That's why we spend all the hours in the training that we do. And if we guarantee it's going to be a good experience for you, or else it's free, what type of work do you think we're going to do?
There is a guarantee.
Temperature selection guarantee, fixed right or it's free guarantee, comfort guarantee, best value guarantee. All of these guarantees hold us accountable to ensuring that we exceed your expectations. And if for whatever reason we'd fail and we can't make it right, we guarantee all of those guarantees with a 100% money back guarantee.
I mean, if you don't think that your technician can fix it right, are you going to say that to a client? No.
You don't have to worry about having a technician come to your house.
We drug test, background check all of our team members. We put safe people in your home. Each and every one of our service techs, 400 hours a year in training.
You tell it the minute they walk in the door. They know what they're doing, they've done their homework, and they actually truly care about what you want.
Because at the end of the day, you're the person that makes sure I have a job.
They're going to be listening. They're going to want to know what your challenges are. Then they're going to come and give you options, and you get to choose.
If I'm there to help and I make it easy and painless, I did my job right that day.
Well, when it comes to your comfort, safety, and your family, you know, you don't necessarily go buy the most expensive, but you get the most bang for your buck.
Oh, it's worth it, because there's a lot of people that will find a way to get it to work right now and then leave and then come back, charge you again, and the cycle just repeats itself. So when I'm out there looking at the furnace, I want to find why it failed today. How can we change the part today with something that you're not going to have to worry about? Is it worth changing the part today? I mean, you can put a lot of money into a furnace. I can fix parts all day. There's good job security in that for me. But is it the right thing for you?
I get a lot of the phone calls of after the technicians are there. They're just in awe. They're like, wow, you guys are great. I mean, I don't even know what to say. You guys are great. Everything you did was perfect. It was great.
Keep going though. I like this.
Just give us a try. I'm going to take all the risk.
I've got the time to make this right. I've got the support to make it right.
Just check us out.
And if you don't see the value in what we do,
I mean, fixed right or it's free or 100% money back.
Enough said.
This is Doc with Doc and Lefty. You listen to us every Tuesday from 6 to 7 p.m. here on webcast1live.com. Just checking Facebook at the break. Tim's brother John is now listening to us.
Oh,
so
good.
we officially went from 8 to 9 listeners.
Well,
actively.
And I actually brought somebody on. A friend of mine is listening as well.
Oh yeah, so we're up to 10.
We're getting there. We're slowly getting into our own. But you know what
We're in double digits, Frank.
You know,
can you handle the pressure?
You know what depresses turnout? Us babbling about our turnout. So you had a point about taxation that you wanted to make, and I'm ready.
All right, you ready?
Bring it on.
We're going to square off. Here's a problem with the government and taxation. The government always introduces things slowly and then gradually ratchets up the pressure, much like the experiment that we do in psychiatry where you drop a frog into cold water and gradually heat it up, then it'll just sit there and boil to death. And that's basically how the government operates. So we introduced a giant tax called Medicare, and, you know, that's just getting larger and larger, that tax there. Social Security was introduced as for widows and orphans, and now it's just for it's basically a retirement package. It was never supposed to be taxed. It's now taxed. I think it's 7%, 8%, something like that. So, things change over time, and you can't ever trust a politician to do what's right for the country. You can trust a politician to do what will get him out of trouble and reelected. My problem with this 3.8% tax on people's net investments, basically, including real estate, my problem with that is they've made it so complicated that a lot of people don't understand it. And, I'm really pretty good at taxes for the most part. This one I blew. So think of how many other people are going to, screw up with this tax. How many? And it's a very complicated tax. It's not a simple tax. It's a complicated tax. And the third thing is it's very easy to go, well, we're going to lower the threshold. It's not going to be based on AGI. It's going to be based upon just strictly net of what you make, not necessarily AGI. And then they're going to say, well, really 3.8% really isn't enough. We're not able to cover our expenses because we're giving away all these programs and entitlements. So we're going to bump it up to 4.2, 4.5. Next thing you know, it's 6.8. And then they're going to say, well, yeah, but it's going to be on each transaction. Because that's originally how it read. On each transaction you had to pay. And then they came up with this AGI thing because I was reading the history of it. So that's my issue with this tax. Not necessarily that it's a tax, because that's a big issue in and of itself, but because the insidious slippery slope that's going to engender, taxing benefits twice. Because the money that I invest in a building, I've already paid for in tax. I already have an income tax. And then when I go to sell it, I have to pay tax on that same money again.
Well, I mean, if your first objection to this is that taxes get amended, then you have an objection with just how legislation works, and so that's just one thing, because they get amended up and they get amended down depending on
how many times they've been amended down.
How many times have taxes been amended down?
Yeah,
a lot.
Only when you get a Republican in the presidency.
Well, they'll lower them and then they'll raise them again when they realize that lowering taxes decreases GDP and throws us into a recession. I mean,
that is a subject for a different. So I'm going to let that one go.
I'm just saying. But if that, you're the other issue when it comes to taxation on this sort of stuff is that if the folks didn't want it, then we wouldn't have it. I mean, the Republicans did such a great job muddying up this big piece of legislation collectively called Obamacare, where that it had broad public opposition until it was broken up into pieces. And this is the same sort of thing.
But nobody had even read it. How could they have broken it up into pieces of legislation when
I'm saying, when you explain it to people, when you explain the different ways that Obamacare works, then people were for it, that people liked it, and they have to pay for it somehow. So then this is just one piece of it. Now here's the thing. Once again, you see folks taking something a little complicated. You're a smart man. You could have found the same thing that I did and had it explained the exact same way and understood it right away. Instead, you bought into this oversimplification, this misidentification of how the bill worked to make a complicated point a simple one and scare people into saying they wouldn't be able to keep their property because they wouldn't be able to afford it because of Obamacare. I mean, I'm not sitting here and accuse my partner and co-host of a political agenda, because this show is totally about political agendas. That would be a useless gesture on my part. What I am saying, though, is that it doesn't take too much thought to understand how these things work. And once people understand how they work, it's been demonstrated time and time again, especially with Obamacare, they actually not enjoy is the wrong word, but they understand and they appreciate the benefits they're getting for their money.
Well, and that's this is talk about agenda. Yeah, I don't like Obamacare. One of the surprising things that everybody, when I talk to people, that they're always surprised at is I am actually for universal health care. I think Americans can do it. However,
I agree.
However, you and I have had this discussion before. Obamacare has nothing to do with the costs, how to contain the costs of health care. Has nothing to do with actually providing decent health care. Has nothing to do with maintaining our lead in healthcare services.
Because it was a giveaway to the insurance companies. That was the whole problem with it from the beginning.
Absolutely. And so that's been my criticism of Obama.
Medicare for everybody. But to say don't agree with me, because then you're a socialist and probably a fascist if you listen to the president of Whole Foods. But I mean, but see, this is the big problem with this. Obamacare's done. It's been litigated. It's done. It's been upheld by the Supreme Court. It's over. Pieces will be changed. Pieces will be amended. Pieces will be repealed, or pieces will be added over the lifetime. It goes into full effect next year, and the economic ramifications, if you believe the CBO and everybody else that's looked at this from a number standpoint, will not really be felt for another 10, 15 years.
Yeah. So by the time my kid is out there, by the time your kid's out there, those are the guys going to get screwed. And, that's it.
Or we'll be able to have a doctor visit that doesn't cost $200. Maybe. But we don't know. That's the whole problem. And that was the problem with the rollout. If you wanted to have a political giveaway to the Republican Party, rolling it out over 3 years is a perfect way to do it, so that it only came into effect after you won the 2012 election. You know, I mean, that's... From a political standpoint, the Democrats have left themselves vulnerable to this same attack for the last 3 years because no one knows how it's going to work.
Well, and with the challenges and everything else, Obamacare, we really didn't know how it was going to work, if it was going to be a lay of the land or not.
Right.
Discussing the healthcare issues, I feel like getting into them, but that's not what this segment's about. This segment is about limiting taxation by the government for stuff that's unnecessary. I think that, when you introduce a new tax for a new thing, these politicians get this tax and they run with it and they modify it. And then the more taxes you have, the more likely it is you can start picking winners and losers instead of letting the people decide what they need at home, what they need out there, and that's my problem with, utilizing. There's a 10% tax on tanning beds. Well, at what point does that all end? And then the Democrats are going like, well, Republicans aren't talking about raising taxes. Well, you just got the largest tax hike in history. How much more money do you really need now? So, I mean, that's my issue with taxes.
Well, I mean, I have a lot of...
I'm going to give you the final word, and then we'll take a break.
I have noththing really to say about it. I mean,
oh my God! I gave you the final word, and for one time you don't have anything to say.
What do you want? I mean,
No, but
that's I mean,
but
that's
not.
the whole issue.
Maybe over Obamacare, but
that's
about taxation.
Yeah. Oh, about tax. I mean,
that's what this segment's about.
The issue with that, I mean, it goes back to the sort of the founding argument of this country. If people want stuff, they have to pay for it, and we pay for things like this through taxes. And if there's still this ideology, and the Republicans never had this problem with the fundamental opinion, the fundamental sort of like nugget of what taxes are up until the last like 30, 40 years. You had Republican presidents and Republican legislatures back in the 30s and the 40s that were more than happy to raise taxes. The income tax was levied on people to pay for World War I, and it had broad bipartisan support. This has been a political football for the Republican Party for the last 30, 40 years, and does not reflect the reality of where the American people are.
All right, we'll be back right after the break. You're listening to Doc and Lefty on webcast1.live.com. Thank you for tuning in.
Drug and alcohol addiction slowly steals a person's identity, tearing away pieces of their life little by little until one day it seems like the hope of a happy future is gone and there's no chance of getting it back. Here at St. Gregory Retreat Centers, we can assure you that there is hope. Our unique approach to recovery begins with the understanding that the dysfunction and damage caused by addiction can be overcome, not just dealt with. Don't let another day go by. Call St. Gregory today.
Drink, dance, party. Kitty's is the ultimate dance club in Des Moines. A huge dance floor with room to move, 3 bars to keep your drinks full, and kickin' DJs playing all your favorite dance music. At Kitty's, we've always got your birthday party planned with Birthday Fridays. That's right, when your birthday rolls around, there's only one place to go. Gather up your friends and head to Kitty's, where you drink free on the Friday of your birthday week. Find out more about Birthday Fridays at kittiesusa.com. Kitty's, all kinds of people, all kinds of music, all kinds of fun.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
This is Doc with Doc and Lefty. Thanks for tuning in. We're going to deviate slightly from Blake and I arguing over how much taxation that we can suffer.
100%.
100% taxation.
Give it all to the government.
Well,
just kidding.
And then you're just a communist.
Hey,
where's your gun? You can't be.
I'm wearing my brown suit.
Oh yeah, that's right. That's how socialists take over, is with suits.
That's right.
So, anyway, one of my giant criticisms of the left, the loony left in general, not particularly Blake because he's pretty reasonable, but one of my giant criticisms of the media and one of my giant criticisms of the loony left is if a Republican goes out there and does something, you can't stop hearing about it. It's on the news 24/7, over and over and over. If it's a Republican, if it's a Democrat, you don't hear anything. Todd Aiken is a good example, right? He said, and God bless it, I know where he's coming from. He says one thing, they won't let it go. The Republicans actually turn on each other. Uncle Joe Biden acts like a meth head monkey on the vice presidential debate. Nothing. They'll go, hey, that shows strength. There's such a dichotomy between what is allowed if you're a Republican, what you're allowed as a Democrat. One of the things that I think is really starting to build support among the lefties that the right does agree with is here's President Obama ordering drone strikes and assassinations under secret orders around the world, even on American citizens. Torture, the torture, quote, that George Bush was accused of continues to this day. The renditions that Bush got in trouble for continue to this day. Now, the left has defended Obama by saying, well, this is just a continuation of Bush's foreign policy. He's had 4 years. At some point, you get to determine your own foreign policy. At some point, you get to determine whether you're going to continue the foreign policy you had or you develop another one. And I think my personal opinion is Obama got in there, saw all the information, went, maybe George Bush wasn't that crazy, and is continuing the same policies. What do you think, Blake?
Well, I mean, first, to take your first point about the left and the right and who gets the most grief, I feel like the left, people don't really listen to the screaming that happens on the right when a Democrat does something because it's usually made up. I mean, the issue,
and that is completely untrue.
The issue, I mean, when you get, people don't trust Fox News, Rush Limbaugh, Sean Hannity anymore because they've been proven that, or Drudge because they've been proven that they've been wrong so often on so much of this
hold
stuff.
on. Don't even start with that because Rachel Maddow,
I'm about to get
Chris
into that.
Matthews.
I'm about to get into that. First, because you are hearing criticism of Obama about his foreign policy from the left. If you tune into Ed Fallon's show every single day the way that I do, he's beating this drum pretty hard.
All right. Now,
Rachel Maddow, same way. Rachel Maddow's been on him since that white paper came out that Michael Isikoff uncovered. So NBC News, as much as it's in the Democrats' pockets, quote unquote, are just as critical of him as they were of George Bush. Now, the issue that Republicans have is because it is George Bush's policy. You cannot have these Republicans now coming out and saying, he's not telling us the information, he's not telling us what we need to know, he's going around killing American citizens overseas. But when George Bush did it, it was fine because national security, because that's exactly what's happening.
Well, but George Bush never targeted American citizens.
Well, you don't know that.
We do know that.
You do not know that.
Well,
it's not a new thing. The
drone strikes are not a new thing.
Barack Obama.
I admit that.
Barack Obama
but
took
George Bush did not target American citizens. He didn't fly military drones over American airspace, and Obama has done that.
Well, military drones fly over American airspace all the time because they do reconnaissance and stuff for various government agencies. I mean, that's how it happens.
No, it doesn't happen.
Yes,
you're not allowed to constitutionally. You're not allowed to deploy Army troops into a state, one, without the permission of the governor, and two, if it's a national troop like the Marines, you're not allowed to deploy them domestically.
Well, anyway, the major issue here is that what we have is the Bush administration created this enormous executive power grab that was defended by Dick Cheney that was defended by Karl Rove at the time, that was defended by every single Republican. I remember being a Democrat back in those days. There weren't a lot of us, and we didn't have a very loud voice because every time we said, hey, maybe you shouldn't be going around and killing people without declaring war on them and having an actual constitutional mandate, we were labeled as unpatriotic, freedom fry eating leftists is how that went. If you don't remember the days after 9/11 and the Iraq War the way that I do, that's what happened. And so now you have a president coming after that enormous executive power grab where the Supreme Court fell down, the Congress fell down, and this president saying, hey, I've got all this power, I'm not going to give it up, because no president in history has given up the executive power once they have it. I'm not saying it's right. I'm saying it's completely immoral and inexcusable for him to keep doing this. You have and the defense. The defense is not that it's Bush's policy. The defense is that these people have taken up arms against their country. Well, we have a constitutional mechanism for dealing with traitors. It's in Article 1 of the Constitution, how to deal with traitors to the country. Drone strikes and killing them without due process because they can't be captured is not the way to do it. And so the Obama administration, acting in lockstep with the Bush administration, is carrying out the same exact foreign policy. And to see Republicans now criticize Obama for having the same sort of opaque, non-transparent oversight issues is to look in the mirror.
Well, why do you think he's continued on with the same policies?
Because killing people is easier than trying him, Doc, and you know that. Well,
yeah, but if Obama is such a good guy, upstanding guy, why would he continue on almost the exact same path that Bush had taken and not repudiate it? I mean, he's had 4 years to do something different with his foreign policy. Why do you think he has not done that?
Why he's not changed his foreign policy?
Yeah, why hasn't he changed it? It's been his opportunity. He got the Nobel Peace Prize.
I know,
Prize for
and he should
crying
give
out
it.
loud.
And he should give it back.
I agree with that 100%.
I can't defend what he's doing because I thought that it was wrong when George Bush did it. I think it's wrong when Obama did it.
Well, why do you think he's not changed it?
Why do you think he's not changed it?
Yeah.
Is it because is your argument that there's some sort of merit?
Well,
so
yeah.
then you support Obama's policy then?
I would support George Bush's policy because that's who he's been blaming for the last 4 years.
And, okay, so you support George Bush's policy, and if Obama's policy is the same.
My question to you is, why don't you think Obama has changed his foreign policy? Why do you think he continues to follow the George Bush policy?
I really can't answer that question because I don't know. My speculation is that just like George Bush, he listens too much to the commanders in the field. He has no reliable ally in Congress because Congress goes along with whatever presidents say as far as foreign policy is concerned anymore. I guess that's just how it is. And when it comes to these drone strikes, I feel like he has this idea that minimizing American casualties is the only thing that he has to think about when he's dealing with foreign policy. But what you're doing when you are opening yourself up to this level of criticism, going after American citizens without due process, one, you're violating the Constitution, just bar none. You're violating when you torture people the way that George Bush did.
The way President Obama continued.
The administration, you're violating the Geneva Conventions. You're violating all kinds of international treaties. When you keep doing this kind of stuff, you radicalize populations. You work against yourself in your insurgency strategy, and you make your troops in the field less safe. It doesn't matter how many of the bad guys you kill. If you kill one bad guy and create 10 more, then you've made your situation worse, not better. They need to stop this. They need to stop it. That's all there is to it.
All right. Well, now, one of the things that people don't know is we still have a whole lot of troops in Iraq, even though we've said that, the war is over, we're pulling everybody home. Well, about a year and a half ago, we signed an agreement with, I think Frank's asleep. You're asleep, Frank? He's asleep. Oh, my God. We must be boring that. We bored the hell out of our producer, Blake. Jeez.
I'm getting pretty fired up, so I don't know.
I don't know. But, geez, I don't know what's going on. So, no, but we signed an agreement with the Iraqi people that we will keep troops there pretty much indefinitely. So, we just got done bringing 34,000 troops home from Afghanistan. But the problem is none of that's really, you know, that's really it's a good start. But you know, goodness, oh my goodness, we have a call.
It's Tim.
Get our headphones on. Mm-hmm. Holy cow! Is it Tim?
Yep.
Hello, hey Tim. Tim. Oh. Uh-oh.
Hello.
Hey Tim, how you doing?
Oh, you got me?
Oh yeah. Hey, what do you got to say, Tim?
Oh, I just wanted to give you a call because you guys were talking about the drone strikes and all that other crap, and that's something that, you know, I hate that. I don't believe that you should ever use any kind of drone to kill an American citizen.
Well, what do you think we ought to use drones to kill proven terrorists, even if they are American citizens?
I think as long as it's overseas, it's fine. That's war. You know, if you're going to use a drone, that's a device of war, and you're going to use it overseas. But to even go after a U.S. citizen overseas, I think there needs to be some kind of trial.
All right. So some kind of vetting, which is what the Obama administration says they're going to do. So that's what you would suggest, too, is doing some kind of vetting so that we are not just killing innocent civilians over there?
Correct. Put some kind of committee out there and have them take care of making sure that those aren't getting overused. All
right. Well, do you have any other opinions about, Iraq, Afghanistan, anything like that?
Not really.
Or how scummy our president is? Got any
what was that?
Got any opinions about how scummy our president is?
Oh, God.
No. Oh, I forget. You are in the armed forces. You can't say that. I'm sorry. So I can't have you talk about the commander in chief.
Hey, I can say, you know, he hasn't been following the Constitution, and I first off swore to protect the Constitution, and that's not what he's doing, and that's what he swore to do.
Oh.
Some of the things I've seen him do, I would almost call for impeachment.
Really? So because you do take a
such as what specifically?
Killing American citizen without due process.
Yeah, because I do believe the armed forces are.
I'm pretty sure that's in the Constitution.
I believe that the armed services are sworn to uphold the Constitution, and they're not sworn to follow the orders of the president. They're the command structure; they have to follow it, but first and foremost, it's supposed to be the Constitution.
So I think they need to do an investigation to see, you know, exactly what went wrong there and how an American citizen did get killed. I mean, he may have been a terrible person, but
because you have to.
I don't want to follow that slippery slope where it's okay to kill Americans.
Yeah, well, and I agree with you. Even though he may be a terrorist, he needs to be arrested as a traitor and brought up on charges of treason. And that's really what needs to happen.
Something as impersonal as a drone, you know.
Yeah, but you know, it does.
With the video game generation, some guy sitting there in front of a TV screen is just fine with bombing something. But you try to order, me or maybe your son to kill an American, we're not going to do it. We already know the rules.
Yeah. So do you think that's widespread sentiment among your military friends?
Oh, yeah, definitely.
All right.
Definitely.
It's just kind of fun to listen to two conservatives kind of criticize a president acting in wartime. It's a novel thing for me.
In wartime.
It's a novel thing for me.
First off, I'm not saying this is Obama's fault at all, but we're in a wartime that is unending.
Exactly.
You can't declare war on an entire belief system.
Exactly. That's exactly right. 100% agree.
Then again, what do you do about it? What do you do about people who just want to kill every American?
You know, and that's
don't let them into the country.
Well, and that's part of the problem. I mean, how do you tell a bad Muslim from a good Muslim? I mean, how do you tell a bad Vietnamese from a good Vietnamese? That's really what we're facing, you know. And these people, I understand Blake's point. If you kill one guy, 10 more are going to stand up.
Yep,
I get that, but I think the part that Blake and some of the liberals don't get is that is an entire region where all they want. I mean, you are talking about people that have called for the end of Israel and the end of the great Satan, and they're not going to stop until we're eliminated.
I wish that we had a department inside the federal government whose job it was to reach out to other peoples and other countries that was properly funded and could do some diplomacy. I wish that existed. I wish that there was a cabinet.
It's called the State Department.
I wish there was a cabinet level secretary in charge of that could do that sort of stuff.
Well, that's called Secretary of State.
I wish that
Clinton.
existed. Apparently, it doesn't. Apparently, it doesn't. Apparently, the killing people with the Defense Department is the only thing we've got in this country, and that's just the best we can do.
All right.
Well, apparently, it's not mandated to have a budget either.
Yeah. Thanks for that parting shot, Tim. So we got to close out the show. Thanks a lot, Tim, for calling in. Thanks for being our biggest fan outside my mother, because if she heard that, I'd be in trouble. Thanks for showing up today, Blake, even though you're a little bit late. What's going on this weekend? You got something coming up, don't you?
Oh yeah, I'm playing a solo acoustic show at the Ducktail Lounge in Clive this Saturday, February 16th, from 9:00 p.m. until 1 o'clock the next morning. So if you want to come out, listen to a few tunes, hear some of the finest, sappiest love songs ever put down to paper, Ducktail Lounge in Clive, 86th Street, 9 to 1 this Saturday.
And one of your Facebook friends gave a suggestion. I said I'd sing duet with you. So, the doc might get up there and singing won't be appropriate. Well, that's not the right word for it, but I'll be doing something close to hollering.
All right.
All right. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. We'll be back next week from 6 to 7 on webcast1live.com. Thanks, Tim, for calling in again. See you, everybody, next week.
Good evening.